You are Locked On Texans Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Houston on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
One of the absolute best things that you can have happen in sports has happened today, and that is the preseason for the NFL ending and the preseason for the Texans ending today. There were some important things that happened in the game today. Of course, when it comes to playing time for players going forward, when it comes to anybody that's out there that's looking to make this football team, we'll go through some of those names that stood out for me throughout this camp and into this preseason. All of that today here on the Locked On Texans Postcast. Appreciate you guys joining me. I am your host, Michael Connor. If you know this channel by now, you know that, yes, we do this after every single Houston game. I'm going to be sitting here talking Texans with you guys. I do have the Astros game up on the computer below me, and later tonight, when Astros and Orioles wraps up, we'll be back live on this channel doing the Locked On Astros Postcast because it's about every single Houston team right here on this channel. And today we will start it off with the football team that wrapped up their preseason. And honestly, a very successful preseason because they walked out of it without a bunch of major injuries overall. They walked out of it with some success. They did a lot of things that you want to see them do. And it's time for the hype machine to get going for this football team. We'll get through all of it today here on the Locked On Texans Postcast. This episode is brought to you today by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. So, one thing from the start of the football game today, we'll see what happens. There's going to be a lot of shakeup with this roster here over the next couple of days. The positions that I really want to focus on are, now look, their depth across the offensive line, I think, is something that you're going to be concerned with, that they're probably going to have to maybe make some additions to, which I'm sure that they will outside of the organization, just because you can never have enough. It's like, I'm going to reference our baseball side of it because we're talking a lot on this channel recently about baseball. You can never have enough pitching in baseball. You can never have enough line help in football. You're going to lose guys constantly. It's going to unfortunately happen. There's going to be a starter on that offensive line in all likelihood at some point this season that's going to go down and it's going to miss time. It just is what it is. You have to prepare for it as best you can. To me, the biggest battles that stand out, I actually don't even want to start with battle first off. Case Keenum looked banged up, I guess. Boyle ends up getting most of the time today. It's not the most significant thing in the world, is what I think in my mind when I'm talking about it. I was actually watching the game with my wife today, and we're talking about, are the Texans going to keep 2 quarterbacks, 3 quarterbacks? And, they kept 3 last year. And it is significant because last year they skipped over Davis Mills to go play Case Keenum when they needed Case Keenum to play when C.J. Stroud was down with concussion. That could have been it for Case Keenum today, and who knows if he lands anywhere else or keeps playing or whatever. I still think that there's nothing wrong with keeping a third quarterback. Why not? A lot of teams are going away from that, but I think I'd rather them keep Keenum and Mills. That's just what I wanted to mention on that. We'll see what they do with that roster spot. The biggest battle, and it might not even be a battle necessarily. I shouldn't say it's a battle, but I think the thing that stood out the most from camp is the backup running back position, or the backups in general. There's a lot of guys that kind of stood out in this preseason. And there was a guy today, whether that was British Brooks or, of course, Cam Akers. I can't see any reason why you're not keeping Cam Akers on this football team. How can you not? He went out there and balled out all preseason. He showed burst again. And I keep going back to it, and I know it's the preseason or whatever. When I watched, I didn't think that there was anything that Dameon Pierce did for this football team in the preseason that screamed, oh my God, he looks so much better. He's so much more of a fit. Like, I think you're going to run into the same issue with Dameon Pierce this year. You're going to sit there and you're going to say, this guy doesn't fit what we do. He's not a zone guy. Cam Akers, to me, looks like a guy that fits, that has some of that burst still in his game after having those Achilles injuries and battling his way back. I know that they probably aren't going to make a move, but I'll say this. Is it crazy to think that, when they make roster decisions here over the next however many hours, that they trade Dameon Pierce? Is that a possibility for this football team at all? I don't know. I thought that was something that stood out more than any other battle across this camp was who's going to get the bulk of the time behind Joe Mixon, because you do know that they're going to always, as you should at this point of his football life, Joe Mixon's an older running back, still a very productive running back. I think that if Joe Mixon's not 1,000-yard back this season, something is going terribly wrong for this football team. They're going to be balanced. They want to be balanced. They have the depth now in place that they have needed over the last couple of years, which is great. But, and oh, by the way, I'm sitting here doing this show live with you guys. Jose Altuve has just cranked a leadoff home run for the Astros. We are off to a roaring start here on a Saturday in Houston, Texans. You got Houston, Texas. You got the Texans winning their final preseason game. You have the Astros off to a good start. I know that we didn't do a show last night on this channel for the Astros. I was planning on doing it. We had a family dinner, and it ran really long, and I just wasn't going to be able – I watched the game at dinner, but I just wasn't going to be able to make it back to do it. It was going to be probably 2 hours after the game ended, and I was like, unfortunately, we're not going to do one tonight. So there's your little update as the baseball game is going on. But Cam Akers, one of those spots that you're going to keep an eye on who gets the playing. I think they'd be making a mistake, honestly, if they don't go into the season with Cam Akers on the football team, and then with Cam Akers being, I think, the bona fide backup right there. The receiver spot is another interesting one, because of – they're locked in. They've got Stephon Diggs. They have Tank Dell. They have Nico Collins. Those are your big three. I know he's not a receiver, but you're going to have Dalton Schultz into the mix. They're pretty loaded at the tight end spot as well. It's the guys that are outside of that are going to make the difference. I liked a lot of what we started to see out of John Mechie in the last couple of preseason games. I think that matters. And Xavier Hutchinson can do a lot of things. I think those are your two other guys that you kind of look at and you go, okay, they got to be the other guys in this mix in the wide receiving spot. Because this team this year, now they're loaded, I think, on both sides of the football. We're going to talk predictions here in just a bit. I think they're really loaded on both sides of the football this season. I know that it raised some eyebrows. They have not done anything to deserve that completely yet. I think they're a real contender to win the AFC this year. You never know how any of the teams are going to look when it comes to January football. And, yeah, they're on the wrong side of the conference when it comes to the back-to-back champions and three-time champions now in this era with the quarterback that they have in Patrick Mahomes. But they can compete, I think, with anybody based off the talent that they have. And I expect that this season. We'll see if it all comes together and, they're able to do just that. But to kind of be a team that maybe stands above those, I think it's those skill positions that are going to really stand out and really carry them there. And then, of course, your quarterback delivering. And I know that I have all the confidence in the world. Everybody else has all the confidence in the world that you keep him upright, you keep him healthy. He's going to be one of the 3 or 4 best quarterbacks in the league at worst this season, in his second full season as an NFL quarterback. Let's talk about the X factors for this team this season. I do want to start taking a look ahead to this season before we get to our predictions. We'll talk about who's going to be the biggest X factors, maybe on both sides of the football here for the Texans this season. We'll do that after this quick message. Well, sometimes there are some non-negotiables for you in life, correct? And self-care is definitely one of those. And BetterHelp is here to help you if you are in need of some self-care. And I'm talking about maybe you got a lot going on in your life, whether it's your kids, activities, big work projects, and more. Things can get hard at times. It makes you feel a little bit less happy. It makes you a little bit, you need to get through it. And, well, guess what? They can absolutely do that. They can absolutely help you when it comes to BetterHelp. They are there for you every day. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designated to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapist anytime for no additional charge. Never skip therapy day with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. Locked On Texans Postcast here on a Saturday afternoon. Thank you guys for joining me here. Mike O'Connor, your host, of course. I hope you guys will join us throughout the football season. Spread the word as well that we do these after football games. And like we've done with the Astros Postcast this year, let's grow together. Let's talk Texans football throughout the year. They'll be in action in a couple of weeks up in Indianapolis to take on the Colts to start the regular season. By the way, if you're looking for this show, like any of our other shows that we do when it comes to the audio version, the podcast version, go and search for Locked On Texans. On that page, that wonderful Locked On Texans page, you'll get that show and this show. And I'm telling you guys, if you're into the day-to-day grind of the Texans, listen to the Locked On Texans show. Their podcast is fantastic. Go subscribe to their YouTube page as well. You're going to enjoy it. You're going to be more informed, and then you can also react. So those guys, they're going to be down there covering the games quite a bit. So this is kind of the channel to land when it comes to the instant post reaction, and their stuff comes as well. And I'm going to try and get them in the mix with this channel as well when it comes to some of the post game coverage, because there will be some games throughout the season, just a couple of them. It looks like that I'll have a little bit of conflict one of them is going to be, I'm going to the Cowboys game up in Arlington. So I'm going to take a chance to be a fan that night. And we'll get somebody else to host the show that night when that happens. But again, appreciate you guys for stopping by this Saturday afternoon. We are watching the Astros as we do this. They're on the computer in front of me. Altuve hit a leadoff home run to start the game. After that game wraps up later today, come right back to this channel. We will have the Locked On Astros postcast later on this afternoon, right here again on this channel after Astros and Orioles game 3 of the 4-game series. This channel is also going to be starting Cougs football this week. I have to figure out how we're going to kind of juggle that, because next Saturday you've got Astros at 6, Cougars at 6. I think going in, the plan is going to be live Astros the second the game ends. We'll do Cougs after the Astros. We'll watch both games, and I believe our buddy Parker, who does the Locked On Cougs daily show here with Locked On, is going to join us for that. I need to send him a text, actually, and see if he will grace us with his presence for the very first show here with the season starting there. We got a lot. We're getting busy. Rockets will be here before you know it as well. So a lot to do on this channel. Let's talk X Factors right now for this football team on each side of the football. Now, I know that you could just roll through, a billion different guys here and there. I talked a little bit about him in the first postcast that we did after the Hall of Fame game against the Bears, and then we got to see him, get into some action as the preseason moved along. I really think this season, the biggest X factor on the defensive side of the football, and I don't think he got enough run, or the Texans even got enough run for signing him, is Danielle Hunter. I think Danielle Hunter is going to be a massive, massive X factor on that side of the football. I think he's going to free up a lot of things for Will Anderson. I think he's going to get the pressure off him, take some of the eyeballs off of him. And I really do expect that the Texans are going to have at least 2 10-sack guys this season. And I think that it's not crazy to think that they could have 2 guys that push that 15 number in Anderson and Danielle Hunter. They're both that good. I think he's back home where he wanted to be, which is a big, big factor for him. I thought that was a really cool thing. I mean, heck, the guy bought tickets to go watch the Texans and Browns by himself last year at NRG Stadium. He wanted to be back home, and he's back home, and I think it's just a match made in heaven when it comes to this Texans defense with what DeMeco Ryans wants to do and the kind of guy that he is and the way that he plays every single Sunday. He is, to me, the biggest X factor in my mind going in. Now, you could easily, again, you could go to somebody else. You could give it to Will Anderson. You could go to that back end I know we're all excited about Derek Stingley, actually, after what he did last season and kind of how he's looked and all the reports on him throughout the preseason so far. But I think it's got to go to Danielle Hunter and the game changer that he can be across the defensive line this season and the pass rush in general. It's just going to be an absolute blast, I think, watching him perform on a daily basis when it comes to this football team. Offensively, I will say this is the one that I struggle with the most. But I'm going to go with Joe Mixon. And I say Joe Mixon because if they can have, with the talent that they have and the style of offense that they run, if they can have a consistent output when it comes to the running game every single week, and he can be the guy that he's been his entire career. Now, he's not going to be a 300 carry guy. I need to go pull up his exact numbers on how many carries he typically has been throughout his career. But I think, you get Joe Mixon get Mixon in the mix for about between 200 and 250 carries in a season. He's never touched 300 carries, by the way. He was 257 last year, played all 17 games. His career high is 292 back in 2021 for the now 28-year-old running back. There's still gas left in the tank. And he's been a 1,000-yard back 4 times in his NFL career so far. I think that he defaults into that with this Texans team. But if he is a consistent producer out of that defensive backfield every single week, I think the level of balance that it gives to this team, that you can't just sit on C.J. Stroud, which you got to sit on him. He's going to pick you apart if you're a opposing team. We all know that. He's going to be awesome, and he's got weapons galore. And it would be easy to go, I'm going to go Stephon Diggs, or I'm going to go Tank Dell, which I would go Tank Dell, the wide receivers, or I'm going to even go Nico Collins there. I think that Joe Mixon is without a doubt my X factor there. So those are my two guys on the side of the ball. If you guys want to plop yours in, you can throw them in there into the comments as well. But I expect that those two additions, really, I mean, they're both additions from the offseason. One trade and one free agent signing are going to be the biggest factors for this team when it comes to overall output, like the effect that they can have on other guys, on how they just operate inside of those schemes on each side of the football. They're going to matter so much to this football team this season. Let's talk now about season predictions. Yeah, that's right. We're going to put it all on the line right now. We're going to tell you what the Texans are going to do this season, where I think that they should end up, how I feel about them going in. We'll do that next year in the Locked On Texans Postcast. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that, they're right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Locked On Texans Postcast for a few more minutes here on a Saturday afternoon, a busy Saturday afternoon across this channel as we do this show live. If you're listening to this later, whether it's on YouTube or on the podcast, the Locked On Texans page, thank you to those of you regulars to the Locked On Texans page. I'm sorry that you're hearing a voice that you're not accustomed to. We did 4 preseason games. I only did 3 shows for the preseason. I had to miss one of them. But you guys, you'll hear this voice once a week on this channel doing shows right here. My name is Michael Connor, of course, your host. You can find me on the X machine at Connor Michael. Go ahead and hit that follow button there. Hit subscribe, of course, on this channel. We're looking to continue the growth. You guys have been fantastic helping grow it so far, and hoping that we can catch on with football season like we have done with baseball season. Baseball season has been very, very, very kind to this channel and very, very kind to you guys with the Astros playing, which, by the way, later on this evening, they are playing at the moment of this show. We will do a Locked On Astros postcast following Astros-Orioles Game 3 of their 4-game weekend series. And at this moment, again, as we do this show, the Astros are currently up 1-0 thanks to a leadoff home run from Jose Altuve. The Texans' expectations this season, sky high, correct? They have a lot for themselves. And I think, when it comes to messaging from them and hearing everything and hearing how everyone's talked about it, and I think I was reading something from the Chronicle the other day. That even somebody was asking Matt Schaub about what this team should do about it now. It's like, and I know that you're going to say, "Oh, Matt Schaub, what does he know?" But it's true from expectation levels. Like every NFL player knows that they have to block it out, plain and simple. They have to block everything out when it comes to the outside noise. They can't listen to me. They can't listen to you. They can't listen to whoever the heck is on ESPN blabbering or NFL Network blabbering at this point. It is on them to just focus on the task at hand. And that sounds so generic, so cliche, and I get it. But I think that is a massive thing for this football team. When you just go roll through the schedule this year, and I said this before, I think putting me on the spot here, just real quick, I'm going to go win. I can't have them start 6-0. I can't. Okay. Win. Okay, they're going 17-0. I'm doing it. No, I'm kidding. I think this is a 13-win team this year. I do. I really do think that this is a 13-win football team. Their toughest games, I really feel, are towards the back end. I mean, look, they got a soft start in my opinion. I know that Anthony Richardson, and that's a road game in Indianapolis where this franchise historically has never played all that great when it comes to results up there. And, Richardson coming back and whatnot, and are they going to be able to handle him? I think they will. They're going to play the Bears week 2 at home to start the homes portion of the schedule. That's Sunday Night Football, by the way. That's second week of the season. That's going to be a lot of fun. But, I mean, just really, I think you go look at the first 4 games of this year. It's going to dictate how this thing kind of goes. Colts on the road, home for the Bears, at the Vikings, which playing in Minnesota is not easy. But, I mean, look, they're running out Sam Darnold at quarterback. The Texans should beat them. And they should beat Jacksonville the following week at home. Buffalo coming to town after that will be tough. Is anybody fearful of Buffalo this year? Like you may have been in the past. I don't think so. I just don't. New England after that on the road at Green Bay. Again, and they're catching New England and Green Bay at the right time of the year. In October, they're going on the road in October to go up there. Like their worst cold weather game is going to be at Kansas City on the 21st. They lucked out when it came to cold weather. They even go to New York at the end of the month of October before it gets super cold. That's it. Everything else is home games and places that aren't freezing cold. I think that they got a really good draw of the schedule this year. And I just don't buy the hype of the rest of the division at all. There's been a lot of love given to Will Levis left and right from people. The Titans they're not going to be a factor. They're going to be the last place team in this division, I think. Again, what are the Colts going to look like? I think they'll hang around a little bit. But I got to look at the Colts and I look at the Jags and I look at both of them and I say, those are at best 9 or 10 win, at best 10 win football teams. I think they're 8 or 9 win football teams. I think it's the Texans division. I think this starts the run. Is it going to get more difficult as the years move along if those other teams make better decisions? Of course. Yeah. I mean, it's football, right? But I really do think, and I'm talking about the whole conference as well, if I'm just putting it together for me today, and this is where they can't believe their own hype, because if they do, well, then they're in trouble. I think it's obvious you still have to go with Kansas City. The Texans have to beat Baltimore. The Texans quarterback's better than the Baltimore Ravens quarterback. Just is. I know he's a 2-time MVP winner. I'm taking C.J. Stroud over Lamar Jackson every day. I prefer the guy that I trust a little bit more to make the throws in certain spots. Not saying that Lamar Jackson can't throw the football. I just think C.J. Stroud's a better thrower of the football than Lamar Jackson. But I think when I'm looking at it, Baltimore is the one team that I'm wondering, can they get past? And if they get over that hump of getting past Baltimore, talking about something here. You know, will they run into them in the playoffs? Who knows? They play Baltimore, by the way, the 25th. That is the Christmas game on Netflix this year. 3:30 game for that one. So you'll get a Christmas Day special right here on the Locked On Texans Postcast. That'll be a lot of fun. But I really do think I'm going with it. I'm saying it. I'm believing it. 13 wins. 13 wins this season for the Texans is my official prediction. We'll see how it looks come the end of the regular season. Hey, thanks for joining us this afternoon here on the Locked On Texans Postcast following the final preseason game. It's on to the regular season. Week 1 against the Colts coming up in a couple of weeks. This channel will be live the second that game wraps up, talking about what went on the field that afternoon at Lucas Oil Stadium. Don't go too far. This channel will be back live coming up in about 2 hours or so as the Astros and the Orioles will be wrapping up. They are currently in the second inning as we do this show. So I will talk to you guys again in a couple of hours. Enjoy the afternoon watching the Astros, and we'll talk soon on that Locked On Astros postcast. Thanks for watching the Locked On Texans postcast.